Imagine a king, a ruler of vast lands and unimaginable wealth, yet feeling a gnawing emptiness deep inside. Have you ever felt that disconnect, that sense of being surrounded by everything, yet somehow lacking the very thing you crave? That's the story of King Mihirakula, a man who had it all, or so it seemed, but felt profoundly lost within the gilded cage of his own power. He wasn't cruel, not at all. In fact, he was known for his just rule, his strategic brilliance, and his dedication to the kingdom of Avanti. Prosperity flourished under his reign, the coffers overflowed, the armies were strong, and the people, ostensibly, were content. But behind the shimmering facade, behind the pronouncements and the ceremonies, Mihirakula was wrestling with a deep and growing unease. A chasm was forming between him and his people. He felt isolated, suffocated by the adulation and the protocols, trapped in the labyrinth of his royal duties. He was a king who knew the facts about his people, their numbers, their trades, their contributions to the kingdom's wealth. He knew the statistics, the census reports, the economic forecasts. But he didn't know them. He didn't know their hopes, their fears, their daily struggles, the small joys and the profound sadnesses that colored their lives. He was disconnected from the very lifeblood of his kingdom, and that realization gnawed at him, a persistent disquiet that wouldn't let him rest. Have you ever felt that separation, that sense of observing life from behind a pane of glass, unable to truly connect with the world around you? That was Mihirakula's plight. The kingdom of Avanti thrived, its markets bustling, its fields fertile, its artisans creating works of beauty and ingenuity. But the king, in his palace of polished marble and fragrant gardens, felt like a stranger in his own land. He yearned to understand the soul of his kingdom, to feel the pulse of its people, to share in their triumphs and their sorrows. He longed to bridge the gap between ruler and ruled, not through decrees or grand gestures, but through genuine human connection. One night, under a canopy of stars in the palace gardens, everything changed. He wasn't eavesdropping, not intentionally, but he happened to overhear a conversation between a simple gardener and another member of the palace staff. The gardener, his face lined with years of sun and toil, was lamenting the king's detachment from the everyday realities of his subjects. He spoke of the king's wisdom and his fairness, but also of the unbridgeable distance that separated him from the lives of ordinary people. The gardener's words, spoken in quiet resignation, were like a hammer blow to Mihirakula's heart. They confirmed his deepest fears, giving voice to the unease that had been plaguing him for so long. It was a pivotal moment, a turning point that would forever alter the course of his life and the fate of his kingdom. Driven by a profound sense of responsibility, Mihirakula resolved to immerse himself in the lives of his people, to shed his royal skin and walk among them as an ordinary man. But how could he, a king recognized by every face in the realm, simply vanish into the crowd? He needed a disguise, a new identity, a way to experience the kingdom without the weight of his crown. He confided in his most trusted advisor, the wise scholar Agastya, revealing his audacious plan, his longing to understand his people, his desire to serve them in a more meaningful way. Agastya, a man of keen intellect and unwavering loyalty, listened patiently, his eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and concern. Initially hesitant, he recognized the sincerity of the king's intentions, the depth of his commitment. He knew that this wasn't a frivolous whim, but a genuine desire to bridge the gap between ruler and ruled. After much deliberation, Agastya devised a plan, a carefully crafted strategy to conceal the king's true identity and allow him to experience the kingdom from a completely different perspective. Mihirakula would become Paramananda, a stonemason apprentice, a humble artisan learning his trade. The transformation would be complete, a shedding of royal persona and an embrace of the life of a common man. With the help of skilled artisans and master disguise-makers, the king shed his regal persona. His fine clothes were replaced with rough-spun cloth, his jeweled rings exchanged for calloused hands, his refined speech adapted to the vernacular of the working class. He learned the tools of the trade, the hammer and chisel, the plumb line and the level. He practiced the movements of a stonemason, the swing of the hammer, the precise placement of the chisel, the careful shaping of the stone. It was a painstaking process, a complete immersion in a new world. And so, King Mihirakula vanished, replaced by Paramananda, the stonemason apprentice, ready to learn, to listen, and to truly understand the heart of his kingdom. His first days as Paramananda were a baptism by fire, a rude awakening to the realities of manual labor. The unaccustomed exertion left his muscles aching, his body weary. Every swing of the hammer, every lift of a heavy stone was a testament to the physical demands of his new life. He fumbled with the tools, his movements clumsy and inefficient compared to the seasoned artisans around him. He learned to accept their quiet amusement, their patient guidance, their unwavering camaraderie. He worked alongside men and women weathered by sun and toil, their faces etched with the stories of their lives. They shared their lunches of simple bread and lentils, their jokes, their quiet moments of reflection. He listened to their stories, their hopes for their children, their concerns about the harvest, their dreams of a better future.
He learned about their lives, their struggles, their triumphs, their quiet acts of heroism in the face of adversity. He discovered the true meaning of community, the power of human connection, the simple joys of everyday life. He witnessed their resilience, their unwavering spirit, their deep-seated love for their families and their kingdom. He learned about the challenges they faced, the unfair taxes, the corrupt officials, the lack of access to education and healthcare. He saw firsthand the injustices that existed within his kingdom, the inequalities that he had been blind to in his palace. He began to understand the true meaning of service, the responsibility of leadership, the importance of empathy and compassion. He realized that true power lies not in the crown or the scepter, but in the ability to understand and connect with the people you are meant to serve. Paramananda toiled alongside the other stonemasons, day in and day out, learning his trade, earning his keep, and slowly, but surely, gaining their trust. He became one of them, sharing their hardships, celebrating their successes, and offering a helping hand whenever needed. He listened to their complaints about the king, the very king he once was, about the perceived disconnect between the palace and the people. He heard their frustrations, their anger, their feelings of being ignored and forgotten. And with each passing day, his resolve grew stronger, his determination to make a difference more profound. He knew that he couldn't reveal his true identity, not yet, but he could use his newfound knowledge to improve the lives of his people, to create a more just and equitable society. He began to suggest small changes, improvements to their working conditions, fairer distribution of resources, more transparent governance. His ideas, born from his unique perspective as both king and commoner, were met with initial skepticism, but his genuine concern and his unwavering commitment eventually won them over. Slowly, gradually, things began to change. The stonemasons, inspired by Paramananda's vision and his leadership, began to advocate for themselves, demanding better treatment, fairer wages, and a greater voice in the decisions that affected their lives. Their collective action, fueled by Paramananda's quiet guidance, began to ripple outwards, inspiring other communities throughout the kingdom to do the same. The king, in his guise as a stonemason apprentice, was sparking a revolution of empathy, of understanding, of genuine human connection. He was building not just with stone and mortar, but with trust and respect, creating a stronger, more resilient kingdom from the ground up. After months of laboring alongside his people, of learning their struggles and understanding their hopes, Mihirakula felt ready to return to his throne. But he would not be the same king who had left the palace. He had been transformed, not by power or wealth, but by empathy and understanding. He gathered the stonemasons, his fellow artisans, the men and women who had taught him the true meaning of service. He revealed his true identity, not with fanfare or ceremony, but with humility and gratitude. The stonemasons were stunned, speechless, their faces reflecting a mixture of disbelief and awe. They had been working alongside their king, sharing their lives, their struggles, their hopes. And he, in turn, had listened, had learned, had cared. Mihirakula, now king once more, returned to his palace, not as a ruler detached from his people, but as a leader deeply connected to their lives. He implemented the changes he had learned about as Paramananda, addressing the injustices, promoting equality, and ensuring that the voices of the common people were heard in the halls of power. His reign became known not for its wealth or its military might, but for its compassion, its justice, and its unwavering commitment to the well-being of its people. He had traded his crown for cobbles, his scepter for a chisel, and in doing so, he had discovered the true meaning of leadership. Mihirakula's transformation reminds us that true wisdom lies not in power or privilege, but in the simple act of understanding. It's a testament to the transformative power of empathy, the importance of connecting with others on a human level, and the enduring value of service. His story challenges us to look beyond the surface, to see the world through the eyes of others, to bridge the divides that separate us, and to build a more just and compassionate world for all. How often do we truly listen, not just hear, but truly listen to the stories of those around us? How often do we step outside our comfort zones, our familiar routines, and immerse ourselves in the lives of others? The tale of King Mihirakula is a reminder that leadership is not about wielding power, but about serving others, that true strength lies not in domination, but in empathy, and that the most profound transformations often begin with the simplest acts of kindness and understanding. He wasn't a perfect king, no one is perfect, but he dared to bridge the gap, not with pronouncements or policies, but with humility. This ancient story echoes through the ages, a beacon of light reminding us that even the most powerful among us can find true meaning in the lives of the everyday person. So, let Mihirakula's story inspire you to seek out understanding, to embrace empathy, and to strive to connect with the world around you in a more meaningful way. For it is in these connections that we find our true purpose, our true strength, and our true humanity.